Looks like we're going to be getting a report from the Justice Center Campus Master Plan. Ms. Kelly to introduce.
Thank you, Chair Herrera. As indicated in your packet, you do have your inaugural report on the Justice Center Campus Master Plan. This comes out of Resolution R 2026-133, where the Pierce County Council directed the County Executive to develop and present a phased Justice Center Campus Master Plan addressing the long-term configuration and operation of the Pierce County Jail, Juvenile Detention Facilities, and related criminal justice services located on or associated with the Justice Center campus. The development of the plan shall be in consultation with relevant departments and offices, including the Pierce County Sheriff's Office and the Superior Court. As I stated, today's presentation is the inaugural quarterly update, and it will focus on options and preliminary plans for the renovation or continued use of the Yakima Jail and the Mountain Detachment Facilities, including proposed timeline, estimated costs, and potential financing options. There is some additional information in the presentation as well. Presenting today, we have Carl Imleg, Director of Facilities Management.
Thank you for that introduction. Come on up to the podium. We look forward to your presentation.
All right, good afternoon, Chair Herrera, council members. It's my pleasure to be up here. I am Carl Imlig, Director of Facilities Management, and of course it is a pleasure to share our status update on the justice projects. Next slide, please. So what I want to do is I'll start by discussing the background, then providing details on each of the projects: Mountain Detachment, O2 Jail renovation, of course, alternate delivery, Juvenile Justice Center, and the jail replacement. Next slide. As was mentioned, this report is based on the 2026 or Resolution 2026-133, requiring our quarterly updates on the justice projects. And of course, adding more information as we gain that throughout each different quarter. The background for this is really based on our efforts with the Justice Center and Space Planning Study completed in 2022. And that included the review of the CCB, the jail complex, and also Raymond Hall. Some of you were involved in that planning and in support of all the projects at that time. So one of the things that I'm really excited about is able to share progress from that 2022 start and where we are today. And we continue to partner with the Sheriff's Office, the other justice departments to help move all of these projects together. And I do want to thank you all for your continued support so we can move these forward together. And before I get into these larger projects, I do want to focus on one project that is nearing design completion. Next slide, please. So the first project I want to talk about is the new Mountain Detachment. This project started in 2022, and the reason behind it is for growth, and also that the existing lease space in the Eatonville City Hall, too small, we need to expand and grow. And so we, in partnership with the Sheriff's Office, we explored different locations and reviewed many different sites, and it ended up picking one, which is the Blau Pit site, which is what the picture is from that. And that is currently a PPW gravel pit site located at Campbell Lane in Meridian. The property, of course, is big enough to actually support both efforts moving forward. Making sure I stay on track with my notes. So as I said, we're currently in design for this project with hoping to go to construction end of the year with a grand opening October of 2027. This project is fully funded, $7.2 million to finish up all the design, permitting, construction. We're currently actually we'll be drilling a well shortly to have water for that site, and so it's on track to meet that schedule. Next slide, please. The next project, or actually the next three, are really the projects that are a continuation of the 22 Justice Center study, which had, of course, we identified all the growth requirements, the expansion, and the needs for all these old justice facilities. I'll give you a little bit more of the background just so we can have a foundation to begin further conversation. In 2022, the consultant we hired, KMB, prepared the study and recommended that these buildings, especially actually all three of those areas, be substantially renovated or completely torn down. This, of course, met all the growth requirements. It met all the needs and expansion. However, when we presented this, it came at a cost of $1.5 billion to move us forward. Rather than attacking it all at once and trying to figure out how to come up with $1.5 billion, we took the first step of course, this multi-step approach. And the first step was to actually purchase the 920 Fawcett building and also the building you're in today, which is 1501 Market, which allowed us to start freeing up space in the CCB to expand the justice functions, at least in the CCB tower and the A-wing. And of course, we're nearing completion on those projects, which is great news, and I'm very pleased to be able to share that. Now, during the preparation of the 2026-27 biennial budget, Executive Mello took on the next step by focusing on the strategic objectives for fair and effective law enforcement and also supporting youth to thrive. We added the next two projects, which of course were the O2 jail renovation and also the Juvenile Justice Center. So now focusing on this project, the O2 jail renovation focus on converting a portion or portions of the O2 jail to a higher security level. Currently it's a dormitory style, and we need to get it so that it can provide more opportunity for a higher class of inmates. By doing this, we'll allow it to be fully utilized, and also as we look at expanding or renovating or replacing the jail complex, this will allow us to continue to use that facility as we're working on the other jail portion. So we're currently soliciting an A&E contract. In fact, I think we've selected our A&E contractor and are currently working on the contracting side of this for both an owner advisor and the design firm. And for this project, it is a pre-design budget of $1.6 million, which gives us through pre-design and schematic design. So from the 22 study, the cost estimate for this project is $95 million. Once we confirm construction cost, and that's where the pre-design and schematic design come in, once we can confirm construction cost, the delivery that we're going to do with this, and I'll get more into the delivery side of it, but we'll look at, and then of course there's a lot of process to go through. So we're looking at bonding this project. So the $95 million, looking at a bonding, which will have to go through council, and using the Justice Fund as the revenue source to support that. There's still a lot of process to go through to confirm that, which of course you'll all be involved in as we move that along. We're hoping, our current plan is completing design in the end of 2028 and keeping that project moving forward. So construction probably starting in 29, but we'll be updating that as we go each quarter. So alternate delivery, I did share about an owner advisor. So next slide, please. So with the owner advisor, this is what we're looking for is a firm that can help us walk through how best to deliver these projects. And what I mean by delivery, it's really the finishing the design and construction. And some of the choices we have are progressive design build, general contractor, construction manager, or design build. And the benefits of these are we have a building, especially with the O2 jail renovation, which we're not closing. It needs to continue to operate. And so bringing in a contractor and a design firm who can work together during the process does reduce schedule, cost risk, and also the risk of operations. So we're exploring that. The owner advisor actually helps us go through the process with the state and also figuring out if this is which one of those or if our traditional style of design bid build is the best way to go. So that's something that we'll be working on. Next slide, please. So I know Executive Mello has shared a lot of the updates on the Juvenile Justice Center and what we've had over the last year. The task force completed their recommendations in April, submitted it, and those are all on our website. If you have an opportunity, I'd suggest opening them up. It's very interesting and exciting what they propose. And I do believe I'll be presenting later on in the year on that report. Let's see. So this one, of course, is to replace the existing Raymond Hall, coming up with a facility to replace the one that's been there for a very long time with its design layout, the age of the building are no longer meeting the needs. So this project is very similar in schedule to the O2 jail. We currently are completing the contracting with an architect and engineer. We'll be using the same owner advisor to help support this. And we're looking for a completion of these pre-design and schematic design in Q4. This work is about $2.4 million of that. So the estimated total cost for this project is estimated at $200 million. Next slide, please. So finally, this is a new project, and this is the jail replacement pre-design. We are adding this project to the capital facilities plan. I know that is currently going to be heard at Planning Commission tomorrow. And so this is a project to figure out what do we need to do with the jail complex or the rest of the jail for replacing that, to see what are the costs, what is the schedule, what are the things we need to do to help move this along. And so we're similar. We're a little bit farther behind on this one. We haven't selected any firm, but we will be advertising that. I heard somebody. But we are going to be advertising for the architect and engineer to help us begin that. This one is, of course, the jail is in need of major renovation. The layouts, the design, the age of the systems are all recommended to be replaced or a drastic renovation. One of the things from the 22 study is, yes, you can renovate the structure and you can save, it's probably maybe a 20% you can save. However, it's the same operational risk, it's the same walls, there's a lot of other considerations that you have to go through. So this is something that we need to go through and really figure out what is the best way to move this forward. So this project, I mentioned previously the 22 study had a $1.5 billion price tag. This project is $800 million. Of course, we do not have a funding plan for this, nor for the Juvenile Justice Center at $200 million. So these are things we still need to be working for or working forward and figuring out how best to do this and what is the best course of action. So a lot of work to do, a lot more to come. And finally, next slide. And yes, questions.
All right. Thank you for that presentation. It's a lot of stuff. Any community members have any questions or comments? Community member Morrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of questions. Thanks for the presentation and the update. I think there's going to be 3 in this room who are going to sail off into the sunset and let everybody else handle the other $1 billion worth of construction that has to happen here. But what I heard rumor on the Yakima jail, the 4th floor, was there was a floor load problem on putting cells up there. Have you heard anything about that? It's the load-bearing capability of that floor.
I have not heard that, but I do wish to phone a friend who's actually in the audience, Deborah Anderson, our construction division manager, and probably provide more information because I have heard of we do have a load restriction on the parking area right adjacent to Yakima Avenue. So I know there is a load bearing there. I haven't heard of anything inside the jail.
Yeah, Deborah Anderson, construction division manager. So we have not dug into the structural loading yet. That'll be part of this pre-design study and vetting out everything. I know we have looked at it in the past because we've put some lot of storage in there in the past, but the specifics on how much weight for individual cells, I haven't specifically studied that yet.
Yeah, because I would be curious to find out, because obviously it was designed for a certain purpose, and it was more the dormitory type layout versus the numerous cells and
And there are different
facilities, etc.
And there are different versions that have been kind of in some of the master planning roughed out to us, whether or not it's 100% individual cells versus, groups, quad cells or smaller dormitory. There might still be some fluctuation on how that works. So we'll be assessing all that as part of the pre-design.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. The other question that I guess is, I was talking to Eric Johnson at the Port of Tacoma. They used a new to them bid process on the new office in the 253 Maritime building, where it was a design build with a guaranteed price. So in other words, the contractor could not submit any change orders on that project. It was up to him and his structural engineer and designer to know what these emerging costs are and to give the port a guaranteed price, so they did not have to spend their time arguing over change orders. So I thought, and he loved it. I mean, it was new to them. It took them a while to get it up and running, but he said, this is the smoothest construction project I have ever been on. So do you know anything about that?
Yeah, so that is one of the alternative delivery methods, and that's the progressive design build, which is a very open book process with us, the owner, and then with the architect and the engineers and contractors. So it is a guaranteed maximum price contract. So as you do the project there, you'll know exactly going in what the final outcome is, and then if there are any overruns, it's on the contractor risk-wise. But that is where it takes a lot. That's why we have the owner advisor and others that are coming on board to help us with that, because it is a lot of really involved upfront planning and making sure that what we're asking for is detailed out as we build those pricing packages.
Well, like I say, the Port of Tacoma and Eric was more than willing to sit down with anyone and go through the experience that they've had, and that project has really moved quick, and the only thing they have to do is talk schedule. Everything else is up to the contractor. So okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Committee Member Hitchin.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the update. I have two questions. The first is really rethinking the needs assessment of who we need to be housing in our jail, and wondering if that would be part of, because I think when we built the 2002 jail, how we were housing people that we were detaining, who was in our jail, is a very different population than who we have now. And I want to make sure that we're really looking at who we're housing, how we need to house them as we do this design. Is that part of this process that'll be happening?
Yes, it is. So one of the pieces we have is working with each of the constituents, which does include, Superior Court, includes corrections, includes Sheriff's Office, because that's one of the big things that we are looking at, or at least one of my values are, I want to build something that is, we know that things are going to evolve, but can we build a facility that meets our needs currently, and then also is flexible enough that we're not stuck with what we have with the O2 jail, which is a piece that has floors that are very underutilized. So the answer is yes.
Okay. And then similarly, I think one of the things and one of the reasons that you're here is based on a proviso that Councilmember Morrell put into our budget this last go around, is really this campus-wide planning. And we need to do everything we can in this game that we're going to play to make sure that we aren't having to displace people who are currently under custody of ours. And so I'm wondering if we go with, are we going to think about how we can upgrade the 2002 jail so that it can hold populations in the older jail if we're potentially tearing that one down and building? Are we gonna, we do this with schools where we like put people in the old part and then we tear down sections and then we build the new school and then we move them to the new school, and then, so I'm thinking, are we gonna do that with our population, or we don't know yet?
So when we did the 22 study, that's part of the discussion, is the first phase of any of the improvements on the jail is to do the O2 jail, which allows you to house more people during any renovations. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get we're not going to be able to house everyone, but all of a sudden we can house more. Okay. So it reduces that displacement.
Okay. And then I guess I have a third question. The Tacoma Avenue properties that we have, a bank that still, I haven't talked about in a long time, but we own a bank. At least I think we still own a bank. But is there any conversations around doing something with that property and just leaving the two facilities alone and then just building something different and new across the street?
So not currently.
Okay.
So part of the 22 study did include options for could you build on those blocks or those half blocks. And so those did have some of the options there. So that is something that that is an asset that we still, that we currently have, we need to consider. How does that play into these expansions? Does it allow for less or more growth, or is the sites just too small?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? More questions? Yeah. Committeemember Morrell.
I didn't, excuse me, I didn't see anything about the evidence room remodel. Is that moving forward for the property? Make sure I get my property evidence room or remodel or whatever you have.
Yeah, so we are still evaluating the next options of looking at expanding it in its current location, but we have to be able to move people out of that building so that we can then expand it to meet the needs. So we're still evaluating where to put all the other people to then be able to expand.
Okay, because to follow up on my colleague's question, don't we own multiple buildings across the street on Tacoma Avenue?
Correct. Yeah, we own from the corner, so from 901, so 9th Avenue, we own to the 925 building, which is District Court Resource Center, and then you have a Tacoma, I think it's the Tacoma Public Works or Roads Park, so that is a Tacoma property. Then we have the old TAPCO building, and then we own to the parking lot, which is the red lot or the juror lot. We don't own the property on the very corner of 11th.
Okay. Okay. I did notice that the old Baxter Auto Parts store that we were looking at is now being a Tesla dealership. So they've totally remodeled it and actually hung the sign up a couple weeks ago. So you lost out on that deal. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you for.
Thank you very much.
Yes.